As we move into our fall meetings, we are struck by the fact that there always seems to be something new and unusual for producers and ABP to deal with. Last year ended with horrible harvest weather across much of the province that left more than 1 million acres unharvested, and the discovery of bovine tuberculosis that shook the lives of producers in southeastern Alberta. Most of the province had good moisture this spring, but many areas of southern Alberta had an extremely hot and dry summer that left grass, crops, and water supplies parched. Our hearts have gone out to our friends and colleagues in BC who have been battling horrific wildfires all summer, and now producers in southern Alberta are facing terrible losses from the Waterton Lakes fire and a large grass fire near Bindloss. We still don't know the full impact of the fires on the cattle and the ranching operations, but Alberta producers are ready to help our neighbors when we can understand the full extent of their needs. After a slow start and some early communication challenges, the bovine TB investigation is in its final phase and has nearly completed the testing of trace-out herds, leaving only the testing of low-risk trace-in herds for this fall and winter. Many herds have been released from quarantine. The cleaning and disinfection on infected and presumed infected premises has proceeded well, and many affected producers have started restocking.
The primary purpose of our fall meetings is to hear from grassroots producers. At last year's fall meetings, we listened and we heard what issues concern producers the most and what actions ABP could take to address these issues. That discussion was the basis for the strategic objectives that we established for this year. 5 of the 6 objectives were directly related to the issues and recommendations that we heard from producers. ABP has worked to enhance our relationships and increase our influence with the Government of Alberta. We continue to lead the industry in gaining consumer confidence, addressing competitive issues that affect the financial viability of farms and ranches, and support activities that encourage young producers to join the industry. Our new All for the Beef marketing campaign and education programs aim to build on consumer confidence and public trust in our industry, while increasing visibility with producers so that they can share in the pride that elevates Alberta beef.
The Canadian Cattlemen's continues to attend the North American Free Trade Agreement talks with the U.S. and our Mexico counterparts. All 3 national cattlemen's organizations jointly wrote a letter to Prime Minister Trudeau, the President of the United States, and the President of Mexico, indicating that it's very important that we continue to have unlimited duty-free access to each other's markets. This is very important to all of us in that we have an integrated North American beef cattle trading system, and it's been very positive for all of our 3 industries. Talks began in August and several more rounds are planned. The wish is to have the talks concluded prior to the midterm elections in the US and the presidential elections for Mexico, which will all be next year. With the recent increase to 50% tariffs on our product going into Japan, that will stay in place until at least April 1st of next year, has made it very difficult for our product to compete with Australia, Chile, and the Mexico products that have a great advantage in terms of tariff against us. This emphasizes the very important TPP agreement that we need to get going. And we are pushing our government to work with the other countries to try to get this into place as soon as possible. With the CETA agreement coming into effect on September 21st of 2017, we continue to work with government to address the technical issues that need to be resolved for CETA to deliver on its potential beef exports. I encourage each of you to take advantage of the resources available to take a look at moving your cattle into the European marketplace. We will need cattle pre-registered in order to get them in there when this market opens up. The Canadian Cattlemen's encourages our government to move swiftly on our China agreements. After the U.S. gained access in June, it is vitally important that we push our government strongly. We need at least the equivalent access for Canadian beef that was granted to the U.S. The proposed changes to the taxation of small and private businesses is going to have a vast and negative impact on our farming and ranching community. It is vitally important that the CCA work with government to propose changes to this legislation and offer solutions that will work for us. CCA has joined the Coalition for Small Business Tax Fairness. This allows us to have a voice to try to push the government to postpone these tax laws until they have broad consultation with the small business community, and will allow us to have an added voice for our changes that we need to make to these laws. In July, the federal, provincial, and territorial agriculture ministers announced the replacement of Growing Forward 2 with the new CAP program. This partnership is a 5-year, $3 billion investment designed to support competitiveness, growth, and innovation in the Canadian agriculture industry. This year's Canadian Beef Industry Conference drew over 700 attendees, providing an inclusive meeting place for the Canadian beef industry to enhance connectivity both within the industry and with the outside world. I look forward to inviting everybody to next year's conference in London, Ontario.
I'll be reviewing the financial statements for the Alberta beef producers as of March 31st, 2017. The financial statements have been reviewed and found to be in good order by Kingston Ross Pasnak LLP. The statement of operations reflects revenue from service charges and levies of approximately $10.4 million. Operating expenses were approximately $4.4 million. These expenses are listed in Schedule 1 of the financial statements in the annual report. There were $3.5 million in payments of the $1 non-refundable national levy to the Canadian Beef Cattle Research, Market Development, and Promotion Agency. Of that, ABP allocates 80 cents of each dollar to Canada Beef and the remaining 20 cents to the Beef Cattle Research Council. ABP issued 830 service charge refunds for a total of approximately $2.5 million in the 2 refund periods of 2016. This represented roughly 37% of the service charge revenue collected. ABP is a strong and viable organization that is able to speak and work effectively for the cattle producers. Our finances are sound because of the large number of producers who leave their checkoff funds with us. Service charge refunds do restrict our ability to make strategic investments in research and market development initiatives. The ABP board has allocated $5.2 million based on retained service charge from the 2016 year, as well as funds from the Operating Reserve Fund to maintain research and market development initiatives. The budget has been allocated as follows. 31% of the funds are allocated to national policy and trade advocacy programs. Through the Canadian Cattlemen's Association and our own work, ABP is involved in national policy and trade advocacy efforts with federal and provincial governments, as well as the U.S. and international markets. 12% is allocated to organizational expenses. This area reflects the cost of having a democratic and representative organization in which all producers can participate. ABP business is conducted under the direction of the Board of Directors, supported by councils, committees, and working groups. These expenses include the costs of having elected delegates, a board of directors, an annual report, and annual and semi-annual general meetings. 42% is allocated to operational expenses. This area reflects expenses related to ABP's mandate in the priority areas of policy, communications, marketing and education, production, research, stewardship, and animal health and welfare. The large investment of funds in these areas reflects their importance to the competitiveness of our industry and the prosperity of producers. The remaining 15% is allocated to administrative expenses. This area reflects the office and administrative expenses incurred to provide the infrastructure needed to support the business conducted by ABP.
After years of talking about increasing industry funding and receiving clear directions from producers to do so, we have moved forward on this issue this year. We have approved the regulation amendments that will increase the national checkoff from $1 to $2.50 per marketing, effective April 1st, 2018. This will support the national research, market development, and issues management activities of the Beef Cattle Research Council and Canada Beef, helping our industry to reach the ambitious objectives in our national beef strategy. Provincially, we are excited about the possibility of creating the Alberta Beef Industry Development Fund, a fund that would support research, market development, and industry collaboration activities here. The money for the fund would come from the additional revenue available to the industry from a non-refundable provincial service charge. A council with representatives from key Alberta producer organizations would allocate this fund. The Alberta Beef Industry Development Fund represents a tremendous opportunity for our industry to come together and make investments in initiatives that will make it stronger and more profitable. We hope the enormous potential of this fund will encourage our partner organizations and producers across the province to support a non-refundable service charge.
We have seen sustainability verification as a clear path to higher levels of consumer confidence and public trust, reflected as enhanced social license. Our commitment to sustainability has been demonstrated through membership in the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, our participation in the McDonald's Verified Sustainable Beef Pilot Project, and our strong support for Verified Beef Production Plus. We are now at the point of establishing larger verified beef supply chains. At the recent Canadian Beef Industry Conference, the Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot was launched. This is a partnership of Cargill, VBP Plus, and the Beef Info Exchange System, or BIXIS. Producers who get verified through VBP Plus and track their cattle through BIXIS to Cargill will be eligible to earn credits for all cattle that produce beef from a fully verified supply chain. Producers will receive payments on the credits when retail and food service companies purchase beef from the fully verified supply chain. We encourage producers to join the Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot to keep Canada on the leading edge of global beef sustainability, increase consumer confidence, and earn financial credits. In closing, I'd like to say that the past 2 years of chairing the Alberta Beef Producers has been a major privilege and an honor. A lot of miles traveled, there's been issues coming up, there always has been and there always will be. And I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity to take it. It's a rewarding experience.